Hello, 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 and welcome to a very different developer live stream. You see me and Dennis all the way over there
Hello.
are social distancing. So far that he's technically not really there, but he's also that far away. So yeah, I hope you all can hear him clearly. Please let me know how his volume is, so I can adjust. Can you say something, Dennis, for the stream?
Yes, hello, hello.
Can you guys hear him clearly? I think so because people say yes. Yo, what up? Yep. Okay. Well, in that regards, today we're going to talk about update 1.3. And what does update 1.3 have? Well, you already see a few things: new time of day, new AI variants, and an aftermath rework. Something that people are probably going to be excited for. Yeah, I know. We were thinking about animating the lips, but that's not as easy as we had hoped.
Yeah,
So
what could that mean? What could that all mean?
exactly. So yeah, do you want to just dive right in?
Yeah, let's go right to the first topic.
Oh, that's not the right screen. Yeah, the new AI variants.
Ooh, what could those be? So basically, what we've looked at a little bit is the existing AI pool, and we want to just come up with a couple of additional variations of already like existing AI we already have in the game that can provoke for like some more interesting new gameplay variety. So we have two of those today, and we're gonna, I guess, present them now.
Yeah. So the first one, the Doctor Grunt. As you see,
So this,
oh, sorry.
yeah. Oh, just go ahead, go ahead. It's fine.
He carries a poisoned saw. So obviously, if he hits you, you get poisoned. And he also drops a med kit or a health kit on death. So whenever you find this guy and you're in, or in general, like you need some health and you're not near a compound, but you do see this grunt, then you can kill him and you get a health kit that you can use there, just like the ones in the world.
So it's quite nice because it adds like something new into the grunt mix. Like they can just systemically spawn wherever grunts spawn with a lower chance, obviously, so they don't like appear everywhere. Which means they also bring like the poison attack. So far you get like bleeding from the blades, you get set on fire from the torches, but sometimes the grunts now also have these poisoned saws if they're Dr. Grunt, and then you can also get some poison damage from that, which is obviously another thing to look out for. I mean, on their own, like any of the grunts, it's not going to be a big threat. It's probably going to be even more an opportunity in this case because of the medkit he brings, but it just spices things up a little bit.
Exactly. And we got a video as well. So there he is, the poison grunt. Oh, the Dr. Grunt. Thinking a long way, I see.
You can see there basically like he dropped this pack, and now you can interact with it. It's basically the same pack as you would normally find in the vault. So there's two uses, so both you and one of your partners can heal up there. And it's also interesting because obviously they stay behind, which means they give you a bit of a clue that maybe players have been around here because maybe one of them have killed one of those grunts, and then the box is still around there.
Yeah, I already see someone Winnie buff anytime soon. Question mark on Facebook.
I mean, beautification of the Vinny definitely is something which is pretty awesome with the Last Gust DLC here. So I really love that one.
Well, he says a Winnie buff.
A Vinny buff, yeah, maybe. I don't
Maybe.
know. Let's talk
So
about the second
the
like thing
next
here.
one, we have this beauty called the Concertina Armored.
Yeah, so this is like a variation of the armored as we know it, but this guy is actually covered in barbed wire. So obviously someone has tried to concertina him, and he still is around.
Poor
And
guy, look
now
how
that has
much of a
changed.
bad time he
That
has.
has changed a little bit what is actually possible with this guy. So means obviously if he gets close to you, you start bleeding. It's not as extreme as the proper concertina wire would be, like that rather kills you very quickly, but it's enough to make you at least consider whether you should get close to this guy. Um, Now, what it means, however, is that because of all the barbed wire metal pieces, he's harder to melee, so he takes a bit more melee damage. But on the other hand, he's also easier to shoot because most of his armor is already gone, so he is in a wounded state technically. And this guy can appear, I think, once in a while. I think it's like maybe a quarter or so of the armored they spawn can be this guy. And if it happens, well, you might want to look out a little bit to see
So
like if you really want to charge him with melee or not.
I got advice. So like with a knife, most of the time you actually get hurt by the barbed wire, but if you take a bomb lance, you have enough range to not get hit. I have tested this, and I can advise you to use the bomb lance. You should just always use the bomb lance because it's the best weapon ever.
Why am I not surprised? So yeah, range actually matters here, and so if you have a knife of any sort, there's a high chance you probably will not be able to attack him out of range and still get some damage yourself.
Yeah.
If you be quick about it, you can bring him down before you lose a chunk. But most of the time, I guess like the chunk can be at risk. So you might want to consider maybe burning him or shooting him quickly or doing any other nasty things. It's just to break things up a little bit, so the knife isn't always 100% the best option.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it still works and you can still bring him down, but it might take this additional strike more than you normally need for a melee weapon. Like I think like 3 bayonet steps rather than 2, for example. So you might end up draining a bit more stamina, or well, you just shoot him in the face.
So people also ask, does he still die to fire? Like,
Yeah, he's basically the same armored as we know him. He dies to the same things. He's vulnerable to the same things. It's just a variation of the armored that once in a while maybe breaks things up a little bit, so you don't just run up to him instantly and knife him quickly with a knife 3 times, like stab him 3 times, but actually consider like what is the best option to do right now.
okay, well, let's watch a video.
As you can see here, I mean, obviously there wasn't the best melee weapon to use, but it
Really
just...
loud, by the way. I think it
Okay.
might be okay, let's put it down to 50.
I just wait for a sec.
Yeah, well, you can do that. Yeah, you can talk.
Okay, it's the video finished because I
Yeah,
only
yeah,
see the stream
yeah.
with a delay, so I only see that. Okay, so basically, what you can see there is like the melee weapons used obviously weren't the best, so it probably could have been taken down more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows you just like if you stick around, if you take a little bit too long, if you have to do these 3, 4, 5 attacks with your melee weapon, it might even cost you a 50 bar. Like, but it's not as aggressive as the normal concertina wire is, which kind of would have killed you in that time.
Yeah, he's not faster. He's the same speed.
It's the same speed. It's the same armored for the most part. It's really just that he has this additional thing to break things up a little bit.
I also saw someone ask, please tell me there's no like immolator rework. I mean, it would be cool to have like an immolator that's even more annoying. Thank you for the idea, by the way.
You never know. Maybe we at one point will put a freezolator in the game. We don't know.
I mean, if you invert the image, it's technically that. If you take the legs out, does it slow down like it normally does?
Yeah. It's like I said, it's basically the armored as we know him. He just has a bit less armor, so he's easier brought down with shooting. But all the barbed wire around him makes it harder to melee him. But overall, he is also just like he's already having less armor around him. He's easier to bring down.
Gotcha. And another question: does the body hurt if it's on the floor dead?
No. The body is basically untouched from this, so he will just despawn like all the other corpses. He's only a threat when he's alive.
Okay. Okay. Well, then to the next thing, the new time of day. So yeah, we have a new time of day. I'm just gonna listen because I want to make sure this sounds good for y'all.
Yep. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. Well, look at this. I mean, first we'll just let them look at it, and then maybe we'll see what it is. Whose time of day? It is a very nice sunny day. Sunset. And it just makes me happy because like this is the weather that I like. Like just looking at it, it just makes me feel good. Like daylight always makes me depressed because it looks like it's about to rain, but like this is like the nice extra like end of the summer, evening. Well, it's not evening, but like when it's about to get evening, it's just nice. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, so this one is interesting for us because first off, it looks amazing. but on secondly, also it has some gameplay implications. So since the sun is hanging rather low in the like west southwestern area, there's actually an implication now if you move towards or away from the sun, like much more so than the other time of days. You have this a little bit already during the golden setting, but positioning becomes a little bit more important here. So depending on how you approach a compound with the sun at basically sitting low there, you might be at advantage or disadvantage. Like you have longer stretched shadows. Also, it actually already is a bit darker than these screenshots make it look like it is, because it's actually already dimmed down a little bit. So you will see light sources already like kind of dim in the distance, like the generator lights, for example, the lantern, etc. Everything will already be on a stronger glow already. Because obviously the sun is setting and there's a bit more darkness around overall. But it's probably best to see that in motion, and then people can get a better feeling for this.
Yeah, I mean, it looks very interesting. I see a lot of people like that love it, and some people are like, but what about rain? Maybe one day.
Maybe one day, like we would like to do more extreme stuff as well, like different weather effects, etc. But this is something which is always a question of technology, and we want to make sure that whatever we implement doesn't come at the expense of performance. And obviously, like lots of particles on screen, etc., can become an issue there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the new time of day. I guess best thing is for you guys to check this out directly then on the test server once it's live, and get a feeling for it there.
Indeed. And then we are moving on to the hunter changes.
Yes. So let's start with the first two here. It's basically
Yeah.
a couple of minor audio changes. So, for example, we've done some tuning to the footsteps. It's very minor, but it basically means that you should be, if you listen for it, be able to more easily tell the difference between your teammates and enemy footsteps. Just there's a minor difference between them now. The second thing is that the twigs that you find in the walls, they have like a slightly longer range now. So you might actually, if you step on them, they might be audible like I think 10 or 20 meters longer than before. I think they were rather short normally. So practically they didn't matter much, but now they do a little bit more. So it's just minor stuff, but the important big thing is the one that comes after, which is ear ringing sound effects. So basically, what we try to do here is we want to introduce another balancing mechanic for our weapons. And by introducing the concept of that, if you have a spammy weapon, let's say you fire a Dolch very quickly, or you have an Aftermath, or you use fanning a lot, it will have some hearing impairments. So you will have a bit of a handicap if you really spam these weapons. The normal player who is using this weapon cautiously, like firing 1, 2, 3 rounds quickly, then pausing a bit as he's repositioning, etc., will probably not hear this at all. But if you keep on firing in a longer firefight, it might actually be at one point that your ears get like this effect on them.
Okay, so real
Um,
quick, I want to add because I do see a lot of people
yeah,
like if you have Titanus, people love these changes. No, it will not be a ringing as like a beeping or buzzing. It's more like a muffled sound. So
yes.
it's
So this,
we
yeah, you're
yeah.
absolutely right. This was very important for us. We had some discussions about this with the audio guys. Like some time ago already, I think last year when we updated the explosion sounds, and they also had a pass which they received some feedback from the community from regarding people who actually have hearing impairments, and for them hearing the high pitched sound when they already have a tinnitus was a problem. So it kind of was double hurting them. So in that regard, the feature that we built in, it's technically an ear ringing, but think of it more of a muffle, like it kind of blocks it out. It's almost a bit
A
of the feeling of the
deadening.
sound. If you would take a hand full of sand grains, right, and you just put them on the top of a drum, and as they kind of ricochet off it, etc. It's a very high frequency still, but some are more subdued sound. Anyways, we will hear it a little bit down the line when we look at some of the other weapon changes and weapon modifications, and you will notice it basically appear in those videos step by step. The idea is that it's just preventing people from spamming the weapons all the time. There is a bit of a cost to it now to do this. So if you are cautiously playing the weapons, firing in shorter bursts or individual shots here and there, you probably not come across this very often. If you are just going in balls out, just shooting, blasting everything away, it will very likely at one point come in your way.
And I mean, especially for people that might have Titanus, if you play in the test server and it would be bothersome, please let us know because that would be very
Yes.
important for us too. Like, obviously, if it would be something that really, disturbs some of our players, that is definitely something we want to know. Even though, okay, so it seems that YouTube stream died, but I don't know why because everything seems fine here.
Okay, while you take a look at the stream there, maybe just give some additional feedback on this.
Yeah.
So what Yannick said is absolutely right. Like, well, what we need is the feedback from the test server from you guys, and what we need to see here is are we striking the right middle ground, both from the sound design, so like not having a ringing where people might expect a ringing, but on the other hand, obviously not upsetting people who might be very vulnerable to this type of audio. On the other hand, also the triggering intensity. So like, will we maybe have to wind back a little bit on this so that it only appears a little bit later when you rapid fire? Should it decay faster so that it's over much quicker? This is stuff that we are flexible on the test server, and that will much depend on the feedback you guys will be giving us to see like where this will position itself balancing wise. Yep. And there's also like a little hint there in the last line when we get to this in a second. Yeah, so this is basically the first step in a bigger topic that we're going to talk about today. So we have to attack this topic from multiple directions, and that's overall weapon balance. So we've just talked about the way for you to no longer spam the weapons all the time, but have actually a cost to weapon spamming with the audio changes.
I unmuted myself. I just muted it so you didn't hear my typing when I was trying to fix YouTube. Thank you, guys.
Okay, awesome. And so what the second component is looking at the mid-range weapons. So specifically the Windfield family, compact rifles. And so one thing we've kind of always had an issue with this gun. I mean, some of you remember the weapon in the very beginning, where people just stopped at the spam field, where basically it was just like able to headshot you at massive ranges and you would just pour rounds constantly. Then we kind of nerfed it. We nerfed it possibly too much also, so that in the long ammo meta that we currently see dominating, obviously the Windfield is a very inferior choice. The Windfield has always had the issue that its sweet spot where it was really effective was maybe between 25 to 50 meters. So anything below that, shotguns and fanning was competing and usually much more effective. Anything beyond that, the long bullets or even like the medium bullet rifles were already competing with you. So it was very easy to either push into the range with a shotgun and be more effective, or push out of the range with a long rifle. So that always like kind of left the Windfield with too many disadvantages for what it was meant to do, which is it was meant to be a very flexible weapon. Technically, the lever action rifles like a Windfield, specifically like the 73 version that we have in the game, you can almost consider this to be one of the first true assault rifles in history. Obviously not by modern standard terms, but it was a flexible weapon. It was something you could use in all sorts of situations. And it's one of the things why it was so successful and widespread, for example, in the Western frontiers. It basically allowed you to keep on firing where other weapons would have to reload all the time. Now, how do we translate that into the game? What we wanted to do is we wanted to ensure that the Windfield gets that flexibility back. And one step in that direction is introduction of this levering trait. So with that, technically, we're introducing something similar to fanning for the Windfield rifles with a trait. However, it's not quite the same. So it has a slower rate of fire. You will have a more kick left, right, etc. So it's going to be a bit harder to stabilize. Think of it to be less effective or less frequent, maybe it's a better word, than what you have in fanning for the Lamate pistol, for example, or when you have the uppercut. Like it's a slower, more controlled type of rapid fire. And also keep in mind, levering and fanning both do not work when you aim down your sights. It only works from the shooting from the shoulder, like from the hip. So there is a certain application where this might be very useful for you to push back on that shotgun or a bomb lance charging you, yes. But it will not give you the edge at long range where you can just like rapid fire at like a Mosin Nagant at 70, 100 meters or so. In this case, you will have to rely on your shot on your spread from the crosshair, and that obviously limits that to maybe like 20 or so meters maximum. But let's have a look at some videos.
Yeah, so we got some videos prepared.
Yeah, that one headshot miss there was totally intentional.
I already saw people again. Oh my god, the same. Okay.
I mean, so obviously this was just against AI here, so but it gives you a good feeling for it. Like, so if you tap it occasionally, like you can get some really good control about it. It's not really semi-automatic from the feeling, but it's somewhat close. Like you will get a very quick timing and rhythm like in your hands there. Like, so it just you have to use this like 2 or 3 times, and it feels rather like predictable and easy to use.
Can you already tell people
You
how much the trade is? Because I see people asking for that.
Yeah, we can already talk about this. So the trade will be 3 points. Again, we will have to see on the test server if this is too much of a steal or if we want to bump it up. The idea is the following for the price. So we have we have Fanning with 7 points, and Fanning arguably is a really powerful addition because you can always use it on your sidearm while it doesn't impact you to use your main weapon. Like you can still use a shotgun, you can still use a bomb lance, you can still use like a sniper rifle, whatever you like. You always have this fanning option as a backup. So that's why 7 is really a good price for the fanning to keep the balance. But for the Windfield, it means that if you want to use the Windfield will be your main, which means you will be very limited in other weapon choices. And keep in mind that we also have the Iron Repeater trait for 2 points. So if you want to maximize the like a lever rifle like the Windfield, you will have to still spend 5 points total in order to upgrade it. And we just want to make sure that it feels viable enough to be considered a main choice, not just as a backup. So that's why it's competing price-wise and attention-wise with primarily the fanning. So that's why we go for 3 in the beginning to see how that plans out. It might end up 4, it might end up 5. We have to try this out a little bit. Again, the best thing is to try this out yourself, get a feeling for it. It is actually rather hard to control in certain situations. So don't expect it to have the same power level as, for example, fanning does. Fanning is still, in my opinion, the superior choice for most times, and therefore also the more costly choice.
I see a lot of people like, make it 5, make it 5, make it 5. This is stupid.
Yeah,
So,
they always have very good suggestions before even putting their hands on, as always. So my suggestion is try it out on the test server. You will be able to do that very soon. And then start discussions from there. Play a couple rounds with it, get a feeling, like kill with it, but also get killed by it. See how that feels against different weapons, different weapon constellations. I'm pretty sure the first couple hours you'll probably only see like Windfields around, so maybe that's also not the best testing environment to like completely judge this yet.
yeah.
But like you want to see how this fares against like a normal typical situation where you have like a Mosin gun shooting at you from 50, 60 meters. Like will fanning help you there? Probably not at all. Will it be okay if a shotgun charges you? Very much so, I guess. Still, like if you charge into a boss arena, if you do ambush, etc., try to play this weapon in different situations, and you probably get a good feeling of how well of an all-rounder this actually makes the Windfield, but also then where it would sit balance-wise. This will take some time to get used to, so I would just ask you to hold a little bit off with the suggestions for now until you really have a chance to play this.
And people also ask, what is the level it unlocks?
It's rather early, so we opted to unlock it at 14, I think. So it's really early in the game. It's also very important because it kind of upgrades then the Windfields early in the game to be a competitive choice. Keep in mind the beginning Windfield is only a 7-shot Windfield, 7+1. So like only in the later ranks, like was it 40 something or so, when you get the full 15-run Windfield, will you see it's then like become more of a thing also. But then again, it will compete at this point very likely with the Vetalis, with the Labelle, with the Mosin, etc.
Yeah, and we have another video, so let's take a look at that too.
Yep.
Taking care pretty quickly.
Gotta hit those headshots.
Yeah. Jeez. Yes, kill the dogs. No, the dogs. That's pretty sick. But yeah, I mean, definitely, as Dennis already said, for us it's just important that you guys will test and let us know how it feels when you're playing with it, because it's not April Fool's yet.
What's also, yeah, just go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done already.
No, go ahead. It's fine.
It's also interesting that take a look at the different Windfields that we have in the game, right? I mean, so we've seen here the Swift being used, which obviously with a quick reload is going to be like the rapid fire monster in this regard. But then keep in mind, we also have, for example, the Marksman Windfield, which has a scope, medium scope. And in addition, now can use the levering for short quarter defense. So it just adds flexibility to already existing weapons and maybe bring some of these weapons a bit more back into the play, where people might consider them because of that flexibility to have a bit of a sniper, but also a bit of like a close quarter defense weapon. The same is obviously true if you go for the silence Windfield, right? To have rapid fire silencer as well on this one. So I think that's going to be interesting for people, especially solos with the levering on the Windfield, because you can very easily clear out compounds from grunts without drawing too much attention.
And I mean, so far, when I played it, I still decided that I wanted to play with the bomb lens. So there's that. It will never be taken from me. Okay.
Okay, so that's so let's maybe talk about the equipment stuff next.
Yeah, so we got some new equipment. We have this in the Mosinagant Obris drum.
Yeah, so this is like a new variation of the Obris that unlocks in the aftermath, sorry, in the Mosinagant family. And basically what it is a 15/0 capacity, so the same as the Aftermath. It basically has the Aftermath's drum kind of tucked underneath, so you don't need to worry too much about reloading. But this whole thing obviously is a bit more cumbersome and handling-wise a bit more bulky, and obviously has a bit of a higher price tag. The prices, I think, we have a slide further down for general weapons, etc. So we're going to talk about this there. But this is just like a new variation, and it gives people actually like another reason maybe to go for medium-sized weapons in their kit, because the total amount of ammunition is the same, right? The normal Obris has 5/10. So 5 rounds loaded, 10 extra, and this one just has 15/0, so there's no extra rounds, but you do have the option to just keep on firing.
Everyone's like, what the heck? It's an April Fool's. What the hell? What is this? Ah!
Now this actually plays rather well. Like the balancing is really not a problem, because again the total amount of ammunition is exactly the same as the normal one.
Yeah, I mean, I tried it as well. It's not super.
Yeah, this is not a mini Aftermath. Just to be on the clear side, this is not a mini. This is a bolt action rifle. It fires one shot at a time, like the normal Obris, like the normal Mosinagant. Just so there is no confusion about this. But yeah, that Obris has a very interesting drum, won't you say?
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah. It's fine.
Where might we have seen that one before?
Okay, so yeah, then we have the Aftermath rework. So you might see
Yes.
a little difference here. It looks different. Besides that, it looks different. It also will play a bit different. So let's just look at these two pictures. You can see that the tin can. I mean, how do you call that? Like the round part.
The drum.
The drum, yeah.
Drum magazine.
It's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, so overall the whole thing got like finally its proper final model. So
Yeah,
Alex's team has been working on this like some time ago, and we were always looking for when is the right moment to release this, and we wanted to do this as we also obviously then in general talk about the Aftermath from a gameplay perspective. So it wouldn't have made sense to just release a model and then keep the Aftermath exactly as is. So we wanted to make this part of a bigger update, and we finally had the chance to look into this and do this. And what you can see here is like all the additional details. Like I really like the padded back for the recoil. You have a lot more detail on the model. The drum has been redesigned, and you saw it already on the Obis drum. Obviously, it's being reused there as well. And very much interesting as well as the weapon has new and improved iron sights as well. So you can actually kind of like aim with this weapon a little bit more precisely. But what it will mean from a gameplay perspective is something we'll just talk about in a second when the video is over.
Yeah. I do like the drum. It looks cool. That's still loud. I'm seeing death.
Yeah, and notice there's obviously no ear ringing effect yet inside the weapon editor, but you might have heard a little bit of that already when we had a look at the Windfield levering. You might have noticed that sound a little bit here, but we'll see that in the Aftermath videos as well. We can also at the end of the stream maybe quickly go back to one of the Windfield videos, so you might be able to hear it there as well.
Okay, so
with the focus.
Let's move on. To another video.
Okay, so let's first look at the first video, and then I explain a little bit about the weapon, and then we get back to the second video.
Yeah, there you heard the sound. Okay, I already heard some people say the sound effect is enough to make me quit the game. Ooh. Well, definitely give us feedback. If it bothers people, we definitely need to know. Okay.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what we've seen there. So basically, there's a couple of changes in the gameplay side for the Aftermath. In general, what we wanted to do is make sure that the Aftermath finds its place more in a specific area, right? Rather than being a good all-rounder. So for that, one of the biggest things is we didn't want to change the capacity. So we still have the 15 rounds and 0 extra capacity, so it's rather short. And it even gets less, even though we don't change the number. And that's the main reason for this, is that the bursts it fires is always 3 rounds, not 2 rounds now. So even if you just tap the trigger quickly or try to like press Q to quickly alt swap, it'll always consume the 3 rounds. And that means you won't be able to play this as aggressively. You will always be able to obviously use this, and you have so like 5 times 3s like bursts you can fire off with this. However, it means that you will have to look much more for ammunition. Either you have to bring an ammo box, or you have to look for supply wagons, etc. So the whole thing is going to be drained of ammunition really, really fast. That's one thing. The second thing is that the weapon also has a slightly higher rate of fire. It's not that much, but just noticeably enough. And that also affects, obviously, the recoil. I mean, on one hand, yes, you can get more shots downrange that way. But on the other hand, there's going to be recoil applied between each of the shots. So the whole thing is much harder to control and keep on target. So as you've seen at the beginning of the video when I was shooting at Hive, it takes, even at that distance of, was it like 15 to 20, maybe 25 meters maximum, it takes probably 1 or 2 bursts to bring someone down at this range. So you probably score a hit, but whether it's going to be a lucky headshot or just the arm, you very likely need like at least hold the button down a little bit longer or fire like 2 consecutive bursts out. There's more spread also, which means that the crosshair is wider, it's more apart. Like if you maybe move a little bit further into the video again, there was at one point where you see the crosshair just me standing around somewhere. So that's the insides, but maybe before that there should be a crosshair somewhere. Boom, but no, just go for crosshair, like not the insides. But that's not a crosshair. It's just a hit blip.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. This one, the with the Hive there. I think that's good. So before I zoom in, what you can see is kind of like how further apart the different crosshairs are, and that means the shots can land anywhere in between that. So shooting from the hip is going to be way, way, way less effective. You will have to aim down sights. You want to aggressively fight the recoil because this weapon kicks like a mule, kicks up rather drastically. So playing with the Aftermath and learning the Aftermath will take some getting used to. It is still a very powerful weapon. We still had some people in playtests do very, very well with this gun. But it's more of a skill thing now. You have to actually really learn the gun, and as such, it won't possibly be as effective at longer ranges than it was before. You have to fight more in close range, and obviously up front, it's still the same devastating weapon, arguably maybe even a little bit more so with a higher rate of fire. But at longer distances, you might get outclassed rather quickly by long-range weapons like a normal bolt action, etc.
Yeah, so I want to add, because I see people like, oh yeah, the ringing should be more of a beeping sound. That would be more annoying for people that have Titanus. That like would literally bother them more and be unable to play. So that's why we want to definitely get feedback, especially from people that have any issues with that. So it would not be a preference thing. It would literally be something like, is this actually bothering you or hurting you? That's something we want to and have to know. So yeah. Next video.
Yeah, so this one is maybe a good example from the stuff we just talked about. We just lined up a couple grunts there on the field, and then I flew back into the tower with the cheat modes, and was shooting at these grunts in the editor quickly. So maybe just play that. So you can see me fighting that recoil very aggressively. Like you have to really, really be aggressive with the controller or with the mouse in order to keep that under control. But even then, I'm only just been hitting them once or twice. In this case, very unlucky to be hitting all the legs, not all the arms only. So you can see like these shorter distances there with a grunt and a hive. You can actually do that crouched, and if you're really, really careful with the single burst. But against these guys in the distance, it's very much down to luck.
Why are
So
my ears
obviously,
ringing from shooting a weapon? I like how that's just something dropped. What is this sound? People are like, this sound are very, very, very. Well, definitely. That's why we need people to check the test server so we can hear what you guys think about the sound. So,
I'm gonna play it again one more time.
yeah, sure.
You can see like the ringing, I think, starts on the second burst. Right, so yeah, again, the ear ringing sound we need a feedback for, but let's disconnect a little bit from the general aftermath changes. So what's
Yeah.
it's also important for us is to see what people think in general of how the aftermath is shaping up. So obviously on the test server, it would be nice if you guys who have unlocked them, etc., can just play with it a little bit as well. There has been also a slight price drop, not by much. I think it went down to 1250 from 1500. As a small compensation, because obviously it's a bit of a nerf intentionally for that weapon to make sure it's less effective at the longer ranges and more specific to a certain combat situation. And I'm pretty sure, because I've seen that already in practice with a couple of really good players. So we had like some testing with some people from the community and our internal testers recently about this, and this thing is still very powerful in the right hands. So I'm not really too concerned, but I think it shows the right direction.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. The Henry C. Marksman.
Yeah, so this is another new weapon variation we have. So we all know the Henri Martini SE1. And besides the Deadeye version that is in the game right now, there's also now a marksman version. So some additional sniping love for those people who really like that. So it's an alternative to the single shot snipers, and that now has basically a medium scope on it as well.
Indeed. Not
It's like
picking.
nothing too special. It's just basically another small thing that fits into the arsenal. I really like this one visually.
Yeah.
I really like this one visually because it feels like more like a more compact kind of like a scout sniper almost in your hands. So if you play around with your teammate and he brings one of those, just look at them a little bit when they have it in their hands. I think it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, and then I just showed it real quickly. Decoy fuses, a new item, which is gonna be very. I'm really curious how many people are gonna buy this and take this with, because it is really fun to use.
Yeah, so the decoy fusees, I'm not sure if they can read the name properly with my head there, but
Oh, I
it's a
just
it's it's
realized that.
it's the Dennis fuses now.
The Denis Fuses.
um, so basically, what they do is they are a new tool, and they come in a pack of 3. And what they do is they mimic a dynamite stick or anything with a fuse, an ignitable fuse. So basically, what you can do with these, you can try to pretend to throw like a dynamite stick while you actually don't. Now, why would you do that? That opens up a bit of additional options for you to, for example, push into an area, right? You might be able to just like throw this down the flight of stairs at Chapel of Saint Sebastian, like when you come down from the graveyard area, and someone who's down there might be covering that entrance. They might actually think that you throw dynamite, so they might back away from this a little bit because they want to get hurt. What you know, however, is that it's just a decoy. So you just basically follow up right after throwing it and push through inside this area while they might be moving around. Obviously, you can also just use it to make sure that maybe that people just move around. So you hear the footsteps of them relocating, repositioning. And in general, it makes it a bit more uncertain when an actual explosion is being thrown at you. So it uses exactly the same sound from dynamite or etc. when it's being thrown, but obviously it's a dud, right? There's nothing happening when the fuse is burned down. They're just decoys that you can use in order to confuse people and play tactically.
Yeah, and people are already like, oh, Chaos Bomb, it is a tool, so it's not a consumable like the Chaos Bomb. And they are exactly the same as Dynamite, so let's listen to it. This does seem obvious.
As you can see here, obviously they still are burning fuse, which means systemically they set things on fire. They will not be able to ignite an AI, but they will be able to set barrels on fire and be able to do anything on the docks.
Okay. Everyone is like, Dennis Fuses, Dennis Fuses. So yeah, those were the Dennis Fuses. I hope you guys like them. Well, do you want
Yeah,
to still talk about
they're
it?
like proper duds, just like Dennis.
People are imagining throwing your head now on people. But yeah, bullet balance, indeed.
Bullet ballons. So yeah, this is basically the second part. I mean, we talked about this in the beginning when we talked about the ear ringing, when we talked about the levering trait for the Windfields,
Yeah.
about how we want to mix things up a little bit in the meta and make sure that maybe some of the weapons that are a bit more in the background at the moment would have a chance to shine again a little bit more. And so this is basically a bigger topic. And it basically means that we've been adjusting the damage drop over distance rules. So as you know, our projectiles, they lose damage as they travel. And depending on the type of projectile, like a long bullet keeps its damage much further out because it's a heavy grain bullet, right? While like a pistol bullet, for example, like a compact bullet, actually expands most of this power rather quickly and then is first off never really that fast, but also kind of bleeds off the damage rather quickly. So from a balancing perspective, this has always meant something like a Windfield is not really effective at long range, and something like a Sparks, for example, you can snipe with over hundreds of meters to very great effect. That is still in its core going to remain like that. So we don't turn like the compact weapons into sniper rifles now. However, it still means that we do a bit of a boost for compact mostly and a little bit to medium bullets. So that just means that these weapons will be able to be a little bit more effective in the mid range. It also means that we have a slightly better separation between rifles and handguns. So we've kind of added a little bit more sub ammo types. For example, on the uppercut, we already had that. So there is basically a compact long, like a pistol long bullet that has a bit of different rules for how the damage drops on the uppercut compared to, for example, the rifles. And we've done something similar now for the pistols in compact and the pistols in medium. That helps us from a balancing point of view. Now, the whole thing is technically a systemic change. What that means is we change the curves, the formulas, and then therefore over distance a different pattern emerges. We'll take a look at now how this looked so far. This might be interesting for some of you guys. So as you can see here, this is basically the damage drop-off chart of how it is on live right now. So basically with the latest changes we done over the last year or so, this chart graph has changed a little bit, and this is how it looks at the moment. So you can see basically on the left side, you see the scale. So 1 means 100% damage. And then on the bottom, you see the distance in meters. Keep in mind, though, that the numbers squash a little bit. So it goes in steps of, was it 10s, 25 or so? And then it goes even
yeah.
a little bit further. Like you have like 100, 145, 150, 100, 249, 250. Like it basically just gives you these big milestones. It's not a linear like map. So it just gets the idea across, however. Now, what it means is, as you can see, for example, the one on the top, the green one, and you see the legend at the bottom maybe, it's obviously the long bullet. The important part here is for us in the balancing always, at what range should a weapon be able to do what type of damage? Now, the damage alone of the weapon is just one factor, right? It's just basically telling you the true damage of the weapon at this distance drops to that new value. However, there's still one additional factor we have to consider here, which is the multipliers on the hit location of the body. So a headshot will multiply the damage much, much more so than, for example, a leg shot or the torso.
Yeah.
So on the hunter itself, or also on the AI, they all use different charts. You will see some of these damages had like a greater effect. Now, what you can see with the old chart here is you see a bit of overlap, where all of a sudden maybe a weaker bullet, like the blue one, the dark blue one, is the compact bullet. Maybe you can use the cursor, so if you want to hover over it. Yeah.
This one, right?
Basically, that blue line, you see that kind of overlap a little bit even with the long silencer or with the medium, etc. at certain distances, specifically around like 70, 80 meters. The whole thing gets very messy. And one of the attempts, what we wanted to do with this balancing approach is to kind of like make sure we don't have this crisscrossing and overlapping anymore, and that the whole lines in general come across much smoother. So the whole thing becomes more predictable and less governed by strict rules like this particular weapon should not headshot beyond 100 meters, for example. Now, if you take a look at the next one, this is how it's going to be. So this is what we will put on the test server. You see everything is kind of like smoothed out a little bit more. You don't have any overlapping. And you also see the addition of the specific pistol ammo types in there. Now, what you can, for example, see here as one example, if you take a look at the orange line, that is the medium bullet. So the Vetterli, for example, or the Springfield. And directly below that, you see this turquoise bluish one. That is the medium pistol bullet. And you can see for the first couple meters, like first 30, 40 meters, there isn't so much difference between, for example, the packs and on the other hand, like the Vetterli. However, as the distance progresses further right, you will see that the pistol bullet just drops off much steeper eventually. That's where obviously then the rifle shines more than the pistol. Now, this was important for us because that way we can ensure that we keep headshot ranges in check for specifically the handguns. Like, as you know, for example, the Dolch used to be a medium ammo weapon. It's now special ammo, but the rule set is still the same as for the mediums. So it has the same drop of rules. Now, obviously, by boosting the medium and the compact bullets, we want to avoid that something like the Dolch all of a sudden gets like 150 meter headshot range. That's why this type of changes have been introduced here as well.
Yeah, I'll say I can after the stream is over, what I'll do on Discord, I'll share the images of the bullet projectile so you can see it clearly, because it's really hard to see in stream, especially if you were to watch on mobile. I'll put it in the official Discord. Don't know which channel yet. I'll just put it in the announcements. So
yeah, we will also do a dev block when this whole thing goes on the live servers, so probably like a bit in a week or two or so from now, that will explain the whole thing a little bit more in detail as well. So obviously until then you can use that's like slight knowledge we can present here in a dev stream, but later on there will be a proper dev block update. So if you've had like already a blog post about this like some time ago, and we're going to update this blog post with the new values, new stats, and new thoughts to explain this a little bit better. So what does it mean though in practice? Maybe we can go to the next one. Well, we can always go back to these slides later on for certain questions.
Yeah, just join the Discord and I'll post it after the stream.
Yeah, so one of the major goals for us was to kind of boost the Windfield a little bit. So that was the weapon we felt suffered the most in the compact realm. So the idea was with these rule changes that ideally the Windfield gets a boost without completely getting everything else out of control, like in extreme, like long ranges, etc. However, the whole thing is systemic. As I said, like we basically change the numbers, and then certain behaviors emerge from that. So it will affect all weapons, and that is okay and fine to a certain extent. So
Oh,
if you
by the
go back,
way, just quickly in
yeah,
between, you can already start downloading the test server right now.
woohoo! So if you go back to,
Yeah.
um, so what you can see here is like that edgy curve for the long bullet, the topmost one, the green one. And then if you compare to the next slide, you see by smoothing it out like that, it also means that the weapons will do a little bit more damage, obviously, because it is going to be not as a hard drop as it was before. But overall, it doesn't change much. It's like in terms of the long bullets, the headshot ranges, etc., they're all unaffected by this. The way the weapons need 2 shots to kind of bring you down, etc., is all the same. So you will feel very little change on the Mosin Nagant, on the Sparks, on all of these weapons. Where you will feel the change is more on the short to mid range, on the compact and medium bullet weapons, and a couple more things we're going to talk about in a second.
Yeah, okay. So obviously for the people that ask on console, it is unfortunately not on a test server for console, it's on PC. So we test it on PC first, and then when it's done, it goes to live to PC first, and then shortly after, we bring it to console.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no concept of a test server we can utilize for console, so
Yeah.
that's why it's limited to PC. So with the goal being the boost of the Windfield and the systemic nature of this, the thing what we have to be really careful about is not to upset the game balance overall. So that's why we have cautiously applied this. But there's, I mentioned this a little bit, like I think 2 minutes ago, there is this other factor, which is the multipliers on the actual hit location. So what you can see here is also what happens on the hunter when the hit arrives. So depending on the different locations the hunter has, so for the projectiles in this case, it's obviously not going to be full body, it's only for explosions, you will see the multipliers change a little bit. What we had before was actually rather identical for the medium and the long bullets, but the compact bullets, they differed a little bit. The compact bullet upper torso multiplier, for example, was a bit lower. I think it was at 0.85 or 0.9. So we've kind of bumped that one up. That obviously gives a damage boost to all of these weapons somewhat. And we've kind of normalized across the board. So that means now with all of the bullet types having the same multipliers for at least the torso, upper torso, and arms and legs, that graph you just saw can be like that. Because before, even though the lines were overlapping in the graph, because of the multipliers being different here, it kind of felt a bit weird. So this has all been standardized and makes it easier for us to balance. The main difference you will see here is the headshot damage. And this is, again, to keep certain weapons under control, when, for example, the Dolch, the Pax, etc., so that they kind of stay still close or within the same increase of headshot range as the other weapons would. Let's have a look at some of the numbers in the next slide, please. Yeah. So this is, for example, how the headshot ranges change systemically. All of the compact weapons, usually they get like 20, 30 on top. The medium weapons, I think they like the bullet, the pistols, that is, they get like 10 or so around on top of that. So again, this is in order to prevent that from being more extreme. We introduced these pistol variations, and then you see the Nagant pistol again, compact, gaining like another 20 or so. We have the officer, which goes to 92 because of the long barrel it has. So that's actually rather nice. We have the Corvo conversion jump up by roughly 20, and the uppercut actually systemically again goes down by 3. So this is just by optimizing these curves. Just it means that the uppercut actually is on the short end here, but to be fair, like 99, 96 is probably not so much of a difference. But that just is a consequence, a systemic consequence of us adjusting these curves.
People like the Dolch, what the hell? Why the uppercut? Just play the test server. You can download the test server on PC right now, and then after the stream is over, you can test and tell us all your feedback.
All right, then go to the next one. And then we have the Windfield, which also goes to 95 from 67. The silencer goes from 39 to 81. So this is actually a very interesting change for those running the silence version, especially now with the levering trade. Can be interesting. And the spark silencer also went from 94 to 144. And yep, I just wait until you're done. Okay, and then we have the Vetterli, which is also interesting because that sees one of the biggest buffs here. The headshot range goes from 95 to 167, and then the Springfield, which was already 150, gets at least to 175. Again, all of that is due to the systemic nature of the curves. One of the changes here is the Nitro Express rifle. So just important part I put there in the very bottom. The one-hit kill, so the shot to the chest, is roughly the same. So we didn't want to boost that. What actually gets like a nerf buff of 5 meters. But on the flip side, the Nitro Express headshot range is also now where the long bullets are. So you get like to 250 meters. So which means if you line up the Nitro Express with its like slow bullet speed at that distance, you can actually get a headshot.
Okay. Move on to the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Equipment changes. I know it's a lot of information to take in. I can imagine that people are like, what, what? But
Yeah.
I mean, for most of it, it's just like try it out, see. The devs seem to like curves.
Yeah, we do like our curves in design.
Haven't
That's
you
something.
seen the Hive? Come on, those curves.
So before we move on to the equipment changes, okay, let's maybe just recap a bit. So basically what we've seen now is a combination of different changes. We have seen a boost to the Windfield in 2 different directions. On one hand, that is the levering, which basically is supposed to boost it a little bit more on the short range to make it a bit more compete against, for example, shotguns charging you, bomb lances, fanning pistols, etc. It's still going to be less effective than any of those, but at least it can stand its ground. So you might want to be able to even push inside the compound with this or inside the boss arena. On the other hand, we have seen a general change to projectiles again, with the main idea to kind of buff the Windfield, but also obviously the officer carbine benefits in the same way from this, to bring some of these rather like I would say unused or underused items a bit more into the meta again. Now that said, systemically, some of the other weapons also have to benefit from this because we're changing the rule system and not individually weapons. And that means some of the medium ones benefit also very nicely. The Vetterli, we should get a proper nice boost for long range engagements this way. And on the other hand, the long bullets feel rather the same as before. Same for the shotguns, who also haven't been touched with this change.
Yeah, I think someone says buff the bomb lance. I can only agree. It's clearly not strong enough yet. Bomb
Well,
lance variant.
if you
That would be interesting.
if you really were a master of the bomb lance, you wouldn't ask for a buff of the bomb lance, Janneke.
I mean, I'm just asking what Chad said. I never asked for a buff from the bomb lance. A concertina lance. Damn, that would be crazy. I mean, I would like to see any like alternative versions that they could make of the bomb lance, like
Yeah.
a
A
bomb lance
concertina armored
mini.
catapult.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the other things in the list. And again, please feedback on the test server.
Yeah.
Play it not only 1 round, play it 20 rounds. Populate the test server, play it a lot, get a feeling for it. It will take a couple rounds to really understand the full scope of all of this.
Indeed.
So next thing is the Chaos Bomb rework.
Yeah, I know people already talked about the Chaos Bomb with the, how's it called? The decoy fuses. Let's talk about the rework.
Yeah, so basically it's the Chaos Bomb, as you know it. However, the problem we've seen with the Chaos Bomb was that the Chaos Bomb kind of became a bit too predictable over the time, right? Like the patterns were kind of, even though it was random, they were still kind of like you like if you played the game a bit, you kind of knew like, oh, this is not genuine. This is not a proper fight. This is a Chaos Bomb. So we wanted to kind of break this up a little bit. So what we have now is we have more variation, so less predictable patterns. And the thing can either do just a few rounds, just pretend to be just a sporadic gunfight, basically with just a couple of weapons shooting, or it can even be a large battle. So you will not quite sure what it is, know what it is this time. So maybe it dies out after 3-4 shots. Maybe it keeps on going for like 30-40 seconds. You don't know. So it's a very massive range where this thing can be active in. And also the way it chooses the weapons, the patterns, etc., is hopefully a bit closer to how actual gunfights are audible at distance usually, and therefore it should make it a bit harder for you to understand whether it's actually a mock fight or if this is a true thing. So
Let's just look at the
this,
videos, let's say.
let's look at the videos.
Because we got 3.
I will not be able to comment on it because I don't hear them.
Yeah. There's no sound. So as you heard, which Dennis did it, there are a lot of different weapons, and it took way longer in between shots as well, where it's like just more realistic.
Yeah, I mean it can be like more than 10 seconds or so between the next shot being fired sometimes.
Yeah. Someone is like, that is all? How long does it last? I mean, it was pretty long. Like, it was, let me see, the first shot.
I mean, it took a moment to even do the initial
Yeah,
one.
exactly. You hear it at 17, 16, 15. So it's about 20 seconds long. Okay, let's just go to the next one.
Play the second one.
So also fatting. There we go. So yeah, we have the fatting sound, the troll bomb. It's you can talk there. You're free to talk there. But yeah, we do have another video, but yeah, it definitely has more different sounds. People are like, how? And I know that some was like you have the fuse sound, but obviously it is still takes time before you hear it, and it's also you can throw the distance. So to distract people, this should be fine. A lot better for sure.
So before we go into the last video, maybe just wait for a sec. So there's this one question there that was in the chat, for example, I just saw that about, so yeah, but that's exactly what you don't want, right? Like it's five rounds, or you've paid for this thing and it's only 5 rounds coming out. Yeah, but keep in mind, it's still, in my opinion, it still fulfills its job, which is it pretends that someone is there. How you use that time is a completely different matter entirely. But by that change, it will become more genuine, right? It will feel more authentic, and hopefully, therefore, the item actually becomes more effective for you to use as a bait, as a decoy, as something that you can draw attention to while you do your thing, right? So even if it just fires a few shots once in a while, it actually still fulfills its role. It draws people to it, thinking, or at least getting confused and questioning themselves, is there actually a player or not?
Okay. Yeah. And the last. I know. Some people said indeed quality over quantity. Well, not quantity, but it is more quality, exactly.
My quantity.
Yeah. Where's dual building? But yeah, I definitely think that it's a lot better this way. And I see most people agree. Some people are like, why is it not longer? But the thing is, like, it's random, right? So some will be random.
Yes.
It
Sometimes it's just a sporadic fight. Sometimes it's the big battle. Like
Yeah.
we intentionally picked examples for show you the minimum and the maximum here.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first one was a bit more intense. This last one was like the least intense. Because the thing is, if it was always similar in battle size and, well, battle fight size, whatever you want to call it, then it would be indeed again too predictable. And that's what we want to prevent.
I think I recorded like 10 or so videos at this location with the same grunt, so we became friends afterwards. It's like it's I've spent quite some time here to find like some good extreme cases also.
Exactly. So, yeah. I see so far. I'm very curious what you guys think. Play with it on the test server. Let us know.
Get confused and confuse people. Try it out.
Exactly. So we have
So,
some.
couple of things. You want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. So we have a few equipment changes. So the Derringer decoys. Every time when I see BF, I think boyfriend, but it's blank fire. Plant fire decoys. And throwing knives now refill 100% in just one, which is great. Knuckle knife stamina reduction to allow for 6 instead of 4 heavy attacks. And we just did some general polish, so like smoothing out some elite attacks, bug fixing, etc. Boyfriend decoys. We have Dennis decoys. We have boyfriend. There's so many different decoys in this game. Oh no, fuses. Dennis fuses, boyfriend decoys.
Yeah, so specifically the ammo changes there, the first point was the
Yeah,
Derringer,
exactly.
etc. So basically, we talked about this with the update when we introduced the item box in 1.13, I think it
Yeah.
was in the beginning December. And one of the issues that we had back then was basically that you use an item box and just gives you one Derringer bullet. That's just really, really annoying. Now, what this does also is obviously it makes sure that as you interact with these boxes, if you just refill the Derringer quickly with this, the next box will definitely get you something more useful. So it's also a step to make maybe the Derringer, the decoys, these type of items that consume quite a bit, but are not really that powerful each, to be still used in your kit. So because very often we've seen people didn't really use them anymore because basically the moment they fired a couple shots off, there was a very few chance they would get something like they would get something meaningful from the item box. And this should be resolved a little bit with this because they instantly fill up if they're being picked for refill, so that the next pick would be something different.
Exactly. I mean, like, that's also because a lot of people want to do those Derringer fights. You know, those everyone plays Derringer on the test server when we do that. So,
I only kill bomb lance users with this. Sorry.
but yeah, no, that would be definitely helpful with those. So we should probably plan one of that when we have the office again.
So yeah, the next thing here, the knuckle knife. So basically, the knuckle knife always had was always, I mean, it's not that new. When we introduced it, it had like the idea of being a good middle ground choice. But practically, it felt for most people still that, okay, well, I'm a disadvantage against the dogs. It always takes us one step more, etc. So even having the additional option to maybe bring on an emulator quickly, take an emulator on quickly, wasn't worth it in the end. So, but now the whole thing is a bit more economic. So you can do more attacks, heavy attacks, for example, than with a regular knife, even so, which means you can just basically cut through armors and grunts more easily, because a grunt still is a one hit, no matter if you have a regular knife or a knuckle knife. And you can also very easily kill like a group of 4 hellhounds with these type of attacks, just to mix them up a little bit. So overall, that should feel more as a viable choice.
Yeah, and people are asking what happens with the pack mule trait for the.
No change. I mean, the pack mule basically picks 2 things, right? I mean, so when we introduced the item box, we reworked Pack Mule and Frontiersman. And what Pack Mule is doing now, since then,
Mhm.
is it gives you two picks. So it could be that the first pick is the Derringer, and then the Derringer is completely refilled in the first pick, and then the second pick could be it gives you a consumable if you have the room for it,
Okay, so yeah.
right? So refilling any of those categories, be it throwing knives, Derringer, whatever, like if they're being picked as the item to be refilled, they will be refilled completely. But you still have with Pack Mule the second random drop that you get.
Yeah, people are like, pack mule buff, woo! So no law, not full decoys times two. Huh? I'm just not sure if I understood that question, but yeah.
Well, basically, we have
Does it refill
a
the
trait.
fuses and the decoy fuses? Yeah, right?
So basically, it refills whatever item you picked. Like
Yeah.
it picks one slot, and whatever is in that slot gets refilled. If it's one of those items listed here, it's a 100% refill. If it's anything else, for example, a fusee or a flare pistol, you get 1 additional point. So it's only those items listed here, which we felt were those with a high capacity, where it becomes really tedious to go for look for like 5, 6 boxes to get them finally full again before you get something meaningful. Those are out of the way with this change, and you can more likely find other more meaningful stuff.
Exactly. During this update, will the consumable refill bug be fixed? I think it is, yes?
The consumer refill bug should be fixed
Yeah.
as well. Yes, we hope. Try it out on test server. We need a bit more data about this, but we worked on it and it should be fixed. So let's have a look and see what test
Exactly.
server gives us back as results.
Okay, let's move on to some price adjustments.
Yeah, so this is in mind with each other changes we've been doing. So people have been saying, but what the Bornheim needed not a buff, it needs a nerf, and you're buffing it because of headshot range. Well, yes, systemically, but also we also do something to the price here. So specifically, the Bornheim extended goes up quite steeply in price. Because also from our data, it shows that it's one of the most like sought after weapons. It's a very effective weapon also, and we want to make sure that it doesn't dominate the choices too much. So that goes up a little bit, and it still is obviously way below what a Dolch costs, but it's hopefully bringing a bit more attention to some of the other choices. Doesn't become the default right away.
Yeah. Someone asked, why would you make the aftermath cheaper? It's because we have also nerfed it in other ways that we showed a bit earlier. So
Yeah.
don't worry.
So I mean, it's still, I would argue, is very pricey. It's still the most expensive weapon we have in the game by far. But as part of the balancing adjustments we've been doing, we didn't want to just basically nerf it into the ground, but also actually make sure it finds a fair place somewhere. I mean, in our dream, what we would like to see is the acceptance of the aftermath, like the Nitro, moving forward. Whether that ever happens, we will not know. But the idea should be that each of these weapons, even though they're end game weapons, they're expensive and powerful, will have enough drawbacks for them to still feel okay. Well, that was a fair fight. He still got me, or I didn't play to my advantage. Like with the Nitro, for example, I didn't stay at distance, or I didn't provoke him firing the shots off, maybe triggering AI around him or whatever.
It will
With the
never be
aftermath, it's
accepted.
with the aftermath. I mean, the aftermath was just a bit too good of an all-rounder, also at longer range distances. And what we hope is with these changes, it's less effective at mid to long range, and therefore people will come up with very valid strategies how to deal with aftermaths. And I mean, the fact that this thing eats its ammunition so much faster now than before makes it very impractical to use as a long-term weapon. So we hope, let's see what test server, what feedback will yield, what information we'll receive from the community about this. But it
Do
should be much harder to use.
do we actually have any information of what people's level and stuff are and like unlocks? Do we have everything unlocked now?
I don't think we have everything unlocked on a dev stream. Sorry, dev stream on the dev server. We might be able to do that for the next update on the test server. So probably we're going to do a couple of rounds of iterations as usual. But for the initial one, I was told we were not able to do this directly because they're not new items. Like the functionality we have is allowing us to unlock new items. So you will see whatever we introduced, like the decoy fuses and also the Martini marksman. Those will be unlocked right away, but the weapons that we have adjusted, they are bound by the normal unlock rules still. So we're looking into a way to do this for the next update on test server so that you would have access to those anyways, but it wasn't easily be doable for today's release at least.
Okay, but that does
At
definitely
least
something we want to try.
at least not everybody will run around with them. That's maybe something as well, because obviously everybody running around with money they can spend at will without any consequence on the test server and running around with aftermath kind of makes the whole thing feel maybe a little bit different than on live.
Everybody buy your Bornheims. Obviously, you can't buy that much anyway, so it doesn't work anymore. I will never forget the sabers. Was Phil right who bought like the sabers and then he couldn't sell them?
Oh yeah, that was Fail Spawner.
Yeah, give me my sabers. Yeah. So
Sorry, fail.
okay.
The free market will take care of it.
Then next, so we have an improved lobby screen.
Yes, so basically the next two things we're going to talk about, they're still a bit work in progress. So even on test server, you will basically see them in a bit of a rough state. We still want to do a couple of fixes and some more polishing on them. But the first of them is the improved lobby. So you can now see the traits that your partners bring and have a better chance to compare stats with your partners. At a later point, not with this update, we will also put in additional options for you to kind of control what stats you want to share and what not. But that's not something that made it into this update. So this probably is going to be a 1.4 item then.
Okay. Yeah, people are like, don't show my details. Well, we have two images for this. So here you can directly obviously see everything that your partner has. And then you can also compare.
Just maybe stick with one first for a moment. So basically, what we have changed here is so what we had so far is you can only ever have one of these detail things open. You couldn't ever have them open for yourself and a partner or for both of your partners. So now they can be opened independently. So you can always put all of the equipment that your party brings into game and on the screen here. You are able to also directly like buy your health here, and you have a chance to see what traits they bring, which I think is very important. It also shows you if someone brings, for example, a contraband weapon or legendary, etc. So overall, it kind of also adds a little bit to the bragging rights, like so you can kind of kit out your hunter and be the coolest guy in the party with your like level 50 dude with all the traits filled up, etc. So it just gives you a bit more bragging right options as well. And then if you click on the little statistics thing there, you can just go to the next one. You go to a comparison screen. So this compares you on the left with your partner that you have selected on the right. And in this case, shows you like how many, for example, contracts he had, or how many maxed out hunters he had, KD, etc. So we see this is like internal quick mock-up, so the KD doesn't really show. But it kind of gives you a bit more of an overview about how you are doing against the partner. And again, this will later on allow you to opt
I
out
also
of the
just
sharing.
want to give people, because people are like, I see Steam icon here. It's because this is currently for PC, so that's why it's a Steam icon.
From a procedure, we always have the test server on PC with
Yeah.
Steam first. And then once we have validated it over some time with the test server and the people joining in playing, we can roll it out on Steam and then see if the stability is all holding up and everything is fine. Then we can put it into the console submission, which takes usually like a couple more days because of the first party holders, the platform holders, obviously wanting a bit more thorough look at this from a validation point of view. And then it will come to the consoles also with a delay of just a few days or a week too.
Yeah.
Depending on how quickly we can roll it out.
Indeed. Yeah. Let's move on to the improved dev screen.
So here, again, it's mostly about making things a bit more readable, showing you a bit more information of what actually has happened. Again, word of caution, some of that stuff is still work in progress. And you will see some of the bugs, etc., some flickering that we hopefully will all get resolved in the next days on test server. So ideas, you can see the hunter model and the weapon model now of your killer. It also obviously highlights legendary contraband gear, and you have the chance also to see more details about the killer in general. So I think we did have a video prepared for that.
Yep.
Yeah. So here, this is us basically walking across a bridge, and then getting killed eventually. So basically what you see here is now you can see the player model, you can rotate the player model, see basically what the guy looked like, you see the weapon he had or she had, you see the skill, like less skilled, higher skilled, etc. And if you click on the details, you can kind of see even some of the more important stats of the guy. You don't see the full comparison like in the lobby with your partners, but you still see some stats there. Apart from that, it's the same information as normal, like distance to partner, the distance from the killer. So like this guy shot me when he was 8 meters away with the uppercut, sitting in the bushes there. And then we have the rework damage history, which also shows you basically in the timeline the different hits. So in this case, like 2.8 seconds before the kill shot, you got hit once, and then the kill shot itself kind of finished you off with the uppercut. So you get the most important information there and have a chance to basically play from there. We're still sorting out some issues when it comes to when can you access the kill view and all of the things that you know from the current screen. So some of that stuff might be maybe not 100% working on the test server right now. It should, but maybe there's some edge cases still. And if you take a look at the second video, that's basically what happened after this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we have one screen. So, for example, if you were to be killed by an armored or something, you can just click the damage history and then it will pop up as well.
Yeah. So for monsters, etc., we still show graphics or like the elevator. So the models are for when you get killed by a player and then their weapons, respectively. So this is the second part of the video. Getting down again. So in this case, he shot me with a legendary weapon. So you see like the additional like golden god rays there, basically kind of gonna make it a bit more prominent. The same would be if it would be a legendary hunter. And then as you can see, like he set me on fire. This is something which is missing in the first version on test server. Like you would normally get a message on the top telling you you're burning, if your partner can pick you up as normal. Right now it doesn't do that, but it will in the next days or two. So you just see basically the health bar just going down. But my partner is coming for the rescue. So toxic. Bye, you boy.
Bye.
So yeah, that's basically how the new screen looks like. Again, a bit of work in progress, but again, feedback a little bit. So you will not see from your killer's view anymore. However, you will still hear the audio from your killer's basically from your corpse's position. I mean, so while you basically put you in a different area where we then render the model, etc., we make sure that you still hear what's happening around you, so you can listen for footsteps, all this stuff as usual.
Hmm. Indeed. I also want to point out one thing because I see people mentioning the easy anti cheat. We have recently banned a lot more people again, or they have banned a lot more people again. So don't worry, it is definitely working, and we are getting, if we get any information about cheats, we forward stuff. So we are definitely on it, and we also want to post a more detailed blog post about this in the future. Unfortunately, due to the whole corona stuff, it's been delayed a bit, but it is definitely something that we are taking extremely serious because it is very important to not have any messed up people in the game.
There is a very, very good question. It's like, why is the sun in the south? Well, it's not 100% in the south, it's more the southwest. But yes, we have to make a bit of concessions there because our indoors are handcrafted, which means the way light emits from the windows and all that stuff is kind of like placed to make for the best visual effect. And that means we were kind of limited to not put the sun directly in the far west. It's still westernish, but it's a little bit more to the southwest because of how all of the light setup in general in the mission is. We don't have dynamic time of day changes, etc. So this is all handcrafted. And as such, we were kind of limited by this a little bit, but I still think it looks very, very awesome.
Exactly. It's actually Dumble who asked that. Oh, I see,
Still,
I see. Okay, then we're gonna move on to a bit more
woohoo!
legendary content. So everything we're showing today is gonna be blood bonds, or one thing is gonna be free because I don't know if you guys remember this skin that I have to totally not look up the name of the person again, but it's hard. Let me see, did I paste it? No, I did not. It's like Piotr. I'm so bad with that name. Piotr something something. I can't pronounce it. But he was our contest winner. I'm sorry I don't have the name right now, but I do want to quickly have that up again. Sorry for here. Okay, yes. So our winner for the skin contest is with the Hedera Mortiferum by Piotr Sekowski. I'm so sorry if I messed that up. But yeah, so we
Piotr
made
Sikalski, or what was it?
Yeah.
Sikalski. Piotr
And
Sikalski, something like that, yeah.
so yeah, what he won, obviously he won his game and skin in the game, as well as 30,000 blood points, a t-shirt, a copy of Hunt, every DLC, so a lot of stuff. And let's look how our character team did it. So everyone else also gets this skin for free. Nobody has to buy this. Everyone will get this skin. And this is how it turned out.
Amazing piece of work from Alex and his team, again, as usual.
I mean, obviously, the design helped make this an amazing piece. Don't want to take that away from the creator. But yeah, it turned out super well. Like the way that they have the engraved, the drawings that he had. Well, I mean, they were engraved to the other one. So reported for showing porn on stream.
Very true, very true. Gun porn is porn too.
Yeah, I mean, it looks
Yeah,
amazing.
really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. I think we have like a video for it in the editor as well.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that.
What's actually really nice is that with the winner being a Caldwell conversion chain pistol, it kind of like follows the tradition of when we gave out our early access reward, the benefactor, which is also I think a very, very nice looking gun. So like those together, very sweet.
I like how it has the little H's on the back of the bullet as well.
Yeah, custom bullets.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it turned out really, really good. So, like, we obviously also had 2 other weapons that we get added in the next
yeah, the runner-ups. Yeah. So yeah, really amazing work by Piotr, and I think a very, very worthy translation into the game by Alex and his team.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super nice. So yeah, everyone will get this one for free. And then we move on to the mod just.
So this is basically a legendary cavalry saber. So this is technically this is the similar to the bayonet that you see on the ripost not Mosin, sorry, Martini Henry. So you can basically have this as a straight blade bayonet blade that you can use as a saber. I really love that one because it's totally subjective. I'm not such a big fan of curved sabers. I like them if they're straight, and this one finally allows me to field one of those. So technically, it's just a cavalry saber, but with a nice new unique skin.
Exactly. And this is a Bloodbones skin. And then the Martini Henry EC Longhand.
Yeah, so this is basically the first legendary skin of the Martini Henry we have. And a very, very nice piece as well. Some of the details are really, really amazing. If you get a bit closer there.
I don't know if I can zoom in.
No, it's fine. I mean, people
people just get closer to the screen. Long boy, which is also a Bloodbone skin. And then I think this is the next one. I think I know what it is. Oh god, I can't click it again. We have this beautiful man ready for some hunting or farming. The redneck skin.
That's me after a week of home office right there.
So I'm glad that I took the emote, right? This is why Dennis didn't have a webcam today on stream. It wasn't because he just simply,
I didn't want to spoil the redneck. That's the main reason.
Nipple man. So yeah, this is also a Bloodbone skin. So everyone who can earn Bloodbones by, doing the training or, playing some missions and stuff will be able to get this skin. I don't know the exact price. Do you have the exact price?
I do have it in a second. Yeah, I think this one is 500 Bloodbones.
Yeah. Where's Joe?
And the Mod Just is 400, and the Martini Longhand is also 400.
So yeah, I mean, we played this on the test server, and like everyone was running around as him, and it was just super funny. It was hilarious.
That guy paired up with the red shirt guy is just amazing in the team.
Yeah, that's also. I mean, I do like this one a little bit more than a red shirt guy. To be fair, like this is it's just so silly, but it's great. I love it.
A fabulous example of the male specimen, right there.
Does he have jiggle physics? So that was something that we asked also someone else, but unfortunately that wasn't possible. But it is something that they tried. I don't know what. I don't remember when again that it wasn't working, but.
But why would you need that? I mean, this is all, as you can clearly see, a pure muscle right there. Why would the jiggle?
The snips are hard. I can help myself. So yeah, definitely get this skin. It's awesome, and yeah, I think it's just great. I don't know. See, working from home brings out the worst out of me, clearly. Finally, his sexy skin. He's rock solid. If he dies to a bomb blast, does he explode like the meatheads? That would be hilarious. Anyways, yeah, so that was is this my streamer skin? Is he single? Well, I think everyone really likes him. That's for sure. But yeah, okay, so we have some legendary adjustments as well. This is something that has been requested for a long time. No longer one limit of legendary hunter. So you can recruit obviously as many on the same thing, or I mean like equip weapons of the same skin. So if you have a favorite legendary weapon that you want to use on multiple without having to constantly swap or reshuffle, whatever you want to call it, it is finally possible. And yeah, so obviously there's a limit for 5 for the guns, and also if you unlock a hunter, it now gives a free one with the temporarily extra slot in the roster, and we have a video of that as well.
Yeah. So basically, if you have full roster right now, you would, at the moment, right now in live, not get it, right? You would just unlock the skin, but then you would need to first free up a slot, use a hunter or whatever, retire one, before you could then manually buy it. Now, with the weapon, what we had in the past already, what's already the case, is that whenever you unlock a weapon for the first time, you also get one free copy of it, right? One free instance. Obviously, there was an issue with the arsenal, but it was always an issue with the hunters and the slots. So now, in case you do have a full roster and you unlock for example, the redneck now, you will get like basically 1+ extra slot, and like the whole list can scroll. So technically, you can have also 11, even if they don't fit on screen. and it allows you to just basically instantly take advantage of this guy.
Yeah, so people are like, if I bought the Legendary Hunter earlier, to, like, get the roster slots. No, it's not to, like, get extra slots. It's just more like, let's say you have 5 full slots and you recruit this guy that it fills, or you actually you buy this hunter, it gives you the free hunter, so it opens up a temporarily slot that will disappear as soon as he's gone or dead.
The moment any hunter dies, it would basically use that slot to kind of go back closer
Yeah,
down to your limit.
exactly. So it's just more like a
But
reserve.
we'll see it in the video in a sec.
Yeah.
You can see here, like all 5 slots are full. Now I go to recruitment. And I'm gonna unlock one of the legendaries.
Sheriff Harden.
If you ever read any of the stories unlocked in the library about this guy, he's such a prick.
You should read the guy from the redneck.
That's also awesome. So yeah, in this case, you can see you get like 1 additional one. Now, if you dismiss any of the hunters, obviously that slot then drops back to 5, obviously keeping Harden. So it's just a temporary thing, just so you can always get your free copy.
Yes. So yeah, that means we got to the end of what we have for today, actually. What things would we want to recap a little bit? Because obviously it's been a lot. Already we've shown off a lot of different weapon changes. Well, mainly damage changes. What do we want to quickly recap? Okay, well, let's just start from the beginning. Okay, so we have the new AI Grunt, Dr. Grunt, which drops a med kit or health kit on the floor, and he also has a poison saw. We have a Concertina Armored that obviously does damage if you hit him or hurt him. And he is harder to melee because of that, but he is easier to shoot. The rest of it is still the same as the original Armored, so you can still slow him down and you can
set him on fire,
set him
etc.
on fire, exactly. So we also have this new time of day, which looks amazing, with the sun being in the south. Okay. And then, okay, so 100 changes is definitely the bit. So, like, do we want to show off some videos in particular, Dennis?
We can show up maybe the aftermath one, and then the levering.
Okay, well...
Yeah, I may just show this one again.
Yeah, so we added a new trade, levering, oh, this is an update, which will make Windfields easy to use, and they have faster fire rates. I'll just look at an example now.
So you can either just hold the button down, or you can just tap it whenever the next shot would be ready. You can hear the cycling with the sound, so you get a feeling for it rather quickly. Obviously, that's the power level is a bit different if you have like a 7 or 8 shot Windfield compared to like the 15 one here. Also, one thing maybe interesting to talk about here is the recoil pattern for the normal Windfield, the C version and the full magazine one. They've always been a bit different, and that's also translating into how they do the levering. So the pattern is a little bit different the way it jumps up or moves to the side, because the full-blown Windfield is more front-heavy, right, with a big magazine tube. So it's a bit less easy to control than the other one. But the other one is lighter, therefore kicks up more.
Okay. Then we have another video. Yeah, it's a perk.
It's a 3-point perk, and you would still need to obviously get Iron Repeater for another 2 points in order to maximize the Windfield.
So 5-point total. But obviously, play the test server, try it out, and let us know in general like what you guys think of it, because your feedback is valuable.
The uppercut is not one-shotting to the chest. Someone posted it a second ago. The damage is absolutely not changed at all. It just means that the headshot range actually of the uppercut is a little bit less, like by 3 meters or so. The way we have adjusted the curves for damage drop-off.
Okay, so we added a new weapon. Wait. No, I'm just gonna keep him here because then it will be fun after. Mosin the God opera's drum, which is not a medium aftermath. It's still a bolt action rifle, so it's still one shot at
Yeah,
a
where the
time.
normal Obris has 5/10 capacity, this one has 15/0, just like the Aftermath has. So you have the total amount of ammunition as normal. However, it's all loaded up front.
Exactly. And then the aftermath rework. So the aftermath got a new look, as you can see here. Some people actually, that's actually interesting. Some people like, can there be a skin added for the old aftermath as like a legendary skin?
Um, the only thing I can say is that now that we have a proper model for the Aftermath, it's much easier to build legendary content for it. So maybe in the future there will be legendary content for it. I mean, we would like to have the 4 guns, right?
And the bomb lance?
Maybe so.
So yeah, it also got a new iron sight, as you can see. Makes it a bit
Yeah.
easier.
The iron sight actually helps a lot with aiming and understanding, like if it's even worth pulling the trigger right now. So at the distances we've balanced it, like if it's kind of inside the ring, there's at least a chance for it to be hit. But obviously this weapon is way less accurate than your normal rifle, so you will have to spray and pray a little bit at medium distances.
Okay, and let's just move to the videos.
You can see here, like a hunter would have taken the same amount of hits, so like 2 bursts were needed to bring it down. And you can already hear a little of the ear ringing, kind of like barely starting in the background.
I said, yeah, we want more feedback on the ear ringing because we want to know, we want to know what people think about it.
You can still basically squeeze the trigger and fire fully automatic, but it always fires at least 3 rounds now rather than 2 rounds, so the bursts are a little bit longer. But that also comes from the higher rate of fire it has. It's slightly higher than normal. Yeah, so here basically it's about the long distance, just to show that shooting at the grunts in the far distance there, it's basically a waste of your ammunition, right? At this range, this weapon is just pure luck. So even this concentration, so just do a couple of hits here and there. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, it basically just shows how much this weapon is useless at that range. So you're wasting your bullets. Get closer, and as you see with the hive and the grunt further below the tower bottom, that's the range you can maybe engage with. But even then, it just quickly eats up all your ammunition.
Exactly. So we also added the Martini EC Marksman, so you can enjoy that if you're into, some sniper weapons. We have the decoy fuses, which is a new consumable. not tool, not consumable. Sorry. Which give the effect of a, like a fuse that you throw like a dynamite stick or
It's basically an item to confuse players. So ideally, you make them move, or you can exploit them moving away from a door, etc., by just throwing it at it. You know it's a pig, so you just quickly charge right through. They might have backed away in fear of the dynamite. So the chance to gem just be
whenever that
deceptive.
exploded, they were not able to hear you for sure. Someone asked, do they work with Dauntless?
I think systemically work with Dauntless, but I mean it's a very short fuse. So as you can see, like they also still set things on fire, right? Not enemies. It's not like a fusee that actually ignites like a player or like an enemy, but they do work against oil spills, barrels, etc. So everything that normally a dynamite stick would also be able to ignite systemically, they would do the same, or blank fire decoys.
The Denis Fuses. Fusies. Okay, so yeah, bullet balance in general. I'm gonna post the images after the stream on Discord. Let me just prepare that so I don't forget.
In a nutshell, it's basically boosting compact and medium bullets somewhat, so they're more effective in mid-range. They don't bleed their damage off so quickly. The whole thing is systemic, however, which means all weapons eventually get some changes. We can see the old graph. That's basically how it is on live. It's all a bit messy, and then we see the new graph.
Yeah, I'm just quickly linking it on the Discord.
And you see like a clearer separation, no overlapping lines, etc. These images will be made available to you guys later, so you can
Like
have a
right
look more in
now.
detail.
It's available
Like
now.
right now.
It's
And that basically means that, as you can see with the orange and the blue line, like something like a Dolch still kind of drops off damage rather quickly, so we don't see a big increase in headshot range there, but we will see a more massive increase, for example, on the Windfield, on the Vetterli, on all the other main rifles. It's mostly about rifles get a boost, while the pistols just a little bit systemically.
Awesome. And then we have so like the goal is indeed to boost the Windfield and give it more better space after it was like not as used as much anymore. This also changed. There was actually a question that popped up earlier. It should not make you hit a body upper body torso with a sparks, right? The damage still stays the same.
The damage should be the same. It's just that damage is retained over longer distance. So all of this changes, all of what they're doing for the medium and the long bullets is that the damage is the same as before. However, maybe now 10, 15, 20 meters, depending on the bullet projectile type and its fall off curve and the weapon, it might retain this damage a little bit more. The compact bullets receive one change here, which is their upper torso value primarily has been upped and brought on the same level, which means everything which is a compact bullet actually receives a buff. An example, we don't have this as a number anywhere here, but maybe just to drop it out for people as a comparison, the Windfield so far on live has a 2-tap chest shot of like 25 meters. So up to 25 meters, you can, if you hit him in the chest and the upper torso, you would bring him down with 2 shots. Now with these changes we've been doing, that would be now at 40, 45-ish meters. So overall, you'll see a big buff for these type of weapons, but obviously you also need to hit the upper torso, right? Most of the time you hit arms, legs, you hit all over the place, and not necessarily directly the upper torso. But it makes things easier and buffs those weapons at the mid-range, where maybe before you would see like the Dolchs and the packs, and also obviously long bullets it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people were asking why is it 1.3 then, but.
And that just comes down from how we run the numbers. So it's basically just balancing in this case. Before it was 0.85 or 0.9, and now it's being brought up to 1.3. So from the calculation, just as a quick recap, you have the base damage of the weapon. That base damage then can be modified as the bullet travels into the world. Based on its type, it falls off faster or later. And then it can also additionally be weakened by penetrating through different materials. What was that? Okay. Thank you.
I just have cats rolling around trying to eat my food.
The world just ended here in Discord for me acoustically a second ago. Oh wait, just to catch my train of thought there. So what you do is like after you have fired a bullet, it travels, it loses damage over distance, it goes through objects like for example a wall, etc. It loses even more damage, possibly can't even penetrate further. At one point, it hits whatever target you're hitting. When that happens, each of the locations that this object has, for example, the head, the upper torso, the arms, etc., has different multipliers that kind of elevates their damage. So that's why a headshot is very lethal. And that's why a leg shot is not so much lethal. So that type of balancing is what you see in that sheet below here. And that's the very last step of the whole calculation, and that makes sure that weapons still do a bit of punch even after they have kind of bled out.
People think that my cats are the new bosses in hunts. I mean, I think that would be a very evil threat. I mean, the beast is massive. He's eating to grow and even more. So, who
Now the
knows?
question is, would you bomb lance it?
Oh,
Ooh.
oh, that's harsh. I don't know if I could do that. Oh, damn it, Dennis. That's cruel.
have to decide between two loves now, right?
Yeah, that's so mean. No, would you bum on your cat? No. Yeah, but yeah. Anyways, let's continue a bit because this is
Yep.
after our recap. So yeah, we changed some headshot ranges. As you can see, most of them got like extended headshot, but the uppercut 3 meters less. So like,
Yeah, that's just because of the systemic nature and how these curves have been altered.
yeah, exactly. So moving on. Also for some more weapons.
Yeah, see here, the Windfield and the Vetterli benefit the most from this change, as is the intention, right? Specifically the Windfield, but also obviously the officer carbine, and everything else just gets a little bit of a thing, like 10, 20 meters maximum added on top. The medium bullets less than the compact bullets, again, by the way we designed the curves. And the long bullet weapons, for the most part, and the shotguns have not received any bigger change. The only thing here that kind of stands out is the spark silencer and the uppercut.
Yeah. So some equipment changes. We reworked the bomb, chaos bomb to make it. I want to say we reworked the bomb lens. No, we did not. To make it a bit less predictable. Some fights seem longer. Some fights seem shorter. I mean, I'm just not gonna show the videos. They're quite long.
No, it's fine. It's
And
fine.
it's a
Basically, they hopefully work better as a decoy now for confusing
exactly.
people what's going on.
Yeah, you can already see the patch notes on the test server right now if you play, and obviously they will also be on the live server when they are. So yeah, some other things that are very nice. So like if you have a derringer or you have decoys or throwing knives, you now get 100% refill from the item boxes instead of just one. So you don't have to, like go for one each. Is it actually also for the? No, never mind. Ignore that. The knuckle knife can do more heavy hits now in a row with your full stamina bar, which will make it a bit more viable. So also definitely check that out because I do feel that the knuckle knife had been a bit controversial, that it's like not as worth to take. But maybe now it has more attacks that it will be better.
I must say that I personally, when I play on live, I usually have either knuckle knife or the regular knife on me most of the time. I really enjoyed the knuckle knife before because of flexibility, but I think now with these changes you'll see on test, I think we've maybe hit the sweet spot now because it actually becomes more economical against grunts, etc.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, obviously we did some bugs fixing and smoothing out melee attacks. I mean, the bug fixing is not just for equipment changes, also for other things. So like a lot of people often ask like, why don't we see more bug fixes here? But that is more described in the patch notes. So if you want more details, you can read that there.
There's also a couple of bug fixes that are, I think, not even in the first iteration of the changelog, so they will be added step by step in, but they might already be in the build.
Exactly. Yeah. So we did some price adjustments. As you can see, the Bornheim got a increase in price by quite a lot. But it was kind of it was also pretty good weapon. I mean, not gonna lie,
Yeah.
I was also taking it always with the bomb lens. So
And it also actually received another buff
buff for that, yeah.
systemically by the compact bullets one. So it is actually even more powerful, but I think no matter, like, even without that change, we still would need to have pushed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But specifically Bornham Extended is as a mini Dolch. I mean, 306 is still steel compared to the Dolch, but it's something where people might choose maybe to bring an officer or something else instead.
We do not have planned to add legendary skins to a shuffle, I believe. No, because it would not make sense. Improved lobby. So yeah, you can see more stuff at the same time, as you can see here. I mean, obviously for all of this, because this is really just a recap, we always, like, I feel like when I do the recap, we always end up talking for like an extra bazillion minutes. But I feel like people could just rewatch it and they should just actually
They
try the
get two
test
streams
server.
for the price of one. Isn't that
Yeah.
awesome?
But yeah, so here you can compare way more stats. Do we actually? I don't know if you want to mention something that if a lot of people are saying like when people are leaving in the lobby that it is something that we're investigating, to add some form of punishments or
Yeah, we have still some discussions for this, and this won't be a 1.3 item, so this is
yeah,
something that we tentatively hope to be able to put into the next update.
exactly.
And the idea would be to have like obviously a bit of a penalty for leaving too frequently. How exactly that is going to be manifesting itself, we still have to discuss. We also talk about possibly like something like a mentor system, etc. Like this is don't quote me on that because we're still in the conceptual phase of this stuff, but we
Yeah.
would like to at least acknowledge the problem and that we want to do something about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, because I know that a lot of people have been saying, like, especially this is the whole, comparison stats. Like, people are very, like, it's daunting, and oftentimes there's people like, oh my god, you have no high enough KD to play with me, so bye. But that's something that we want to, figure out what we can do against that so it doesn't, happen as frequent or that there will be consequences for people who do that. But yeah, that's just something that we're working on and thinking about, which is unfortunately not something we can give right now. But it is something that we're looking into to prevent that because I know some people are like, oh no, why are we showing more KD everywhere? Maybe that will makes it, like more judgy or something. But it is something that we take very serious as well.
Yeah,
So
we want to allow players later on to be able to opt out of some of these stats and
yeah,
sharing, etc. But I think
exactly.
it's more important to rather than hide and store away stuff, put it away, to actually incentivize people to play together and in
Yeah,
order to make the score
I
less
would
the
love
important thing.
to have like a mentor system where you can have some rewards for mentoring young people, but also in general, like I think overall, like we have a lot of nice
You
people.
mean to get mentored or to mentor?
No, well, yeah, if you mentor, no, 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 like if you mentor someone, but like, I mean, sure, I'll tell them and show them how it's done if you play the bomblands and nothing else in the game. But, but I do think, like, I think I like that idea. But that's something, obviously, we have to. It's not for this to update, but I just wanted to point out that.
I can already see in your stream from you like a Bomblands boot camp with Mac,
Yeah, bomblands boot camp,
Sergeant Mac.
BLB with Sergeant Mac. That would be something. Okay, so yeah, also the death screen has improved. Okay, we'll just quickly we'll watch one video then.
You can maybe like move a little bit further up, like this closer to kill.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's kills.
Like past. There we go. Bam, that killed.
Boom.
This is how it looks. So you can see like the weapon model now. You can see the hunter model. You see good more details. It's still work in progress, so we're still going to do some refinements about this, like the flickering, etc. Should all be resolved, and you have a chance to also see a bit more details about that particular player. It's not the full details as in the lobby, but you can kind of do the normal things you would expect from a dev screen. The audio is still coming from your corpse position, so even if you don't see from your hunter's eyes anymore, you still hear what's going around as before.
Is that
Also,
something?
the upgraded damage view. Sorry.
Is that actually something that like, depending on feedback, that we might want to have an option to like still see around you?
It's gonna be hard because in order to allow for the models to be displayed, we can't do this at the same location where your body is, right? So this is all smoke and mirrors. Basically, I think you're like a couple hundred meters away outside of the map when this happens. It's the screen you get teleported to, and then we show the stuff there. But the audio is still coming from your position.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I was just curious because I feel like some people might ask that, and I was like, I'll just ask the dumb questions. Okay. Please read right. I already read it. So, like the NVIDIA filters, the thing is, NVIDIA filters is not something that we block because technically everyone can do it, or people could mess with the, like, let's say the brightness and stuff of their monitor. That's why it's not really something we can really, like, change or ban because people can alter the you can alter a screen, like you can alter a screen, you can alter technically, okay, no, I shouldn't give people ideas, but like you can do it with OBS if you wanted to. So it's really hard to do something about that particular problem. So no, we're not ignoring any questions. We try to keep the stream focused on the content, and then in the end we can do some questions. So yeah. What does the arrow say on the left of the hunter who killed you? 1 sec.
Go back to this. So this is
Yeah, let me
basically the
just get
same.
your screen because you're in the way.
Yeah. So this is the same arrow that you know from maybe the summary screen, accolade cards, etc. Like it basically
Yeah,
shows you whether the one that in this case killed you, or on death screen it would be the ones that you killed, would be roughly equally in the skill. If they're less skilled, a lot less skilled, or a little bit better, or much better. So it's basically those 5 grades we have: arrows horizontally, 1 arrow up or 2 arrows up, and then 1 arrow down, 2 arrows down, and they're gonna give you a rough estimation of what their elo ranking is compared to yours, and therefore whether this guy should be considered to be better or worse than you, and therefore maybe makes more sense for how he killed you or you killed him.
exactly. Yes. Okay, let's move on to the content. So we got the Hedera Mortiferum, aka the skin contest winner. And it is made in an actual weapon that everyone will get for free with this update. It looks amazing. We have also a quick video in the thing. Well, no. It's a recap. Janneke, it's a recap. The Mod Just, a straight cavalry saber, also a Bloodbones weapon, legendary. The Longhand, Martini Henri Z. And our
The
favorite
redneck.
guy, I can't do a redneck accent. I'm not going to try. The redneck. Dennis working from home. So, yeah.
True story.
And then last but not least, you no longer have a legendary maximum of 1 per item, or 1 legendary per, loadout. So you can have, well, not loadout, yes. You can have the same legendary multiple hunters. That's what I'm trying to say. And there's a limit, and also if you unlock a legendary hunter, like if you purchase him and you have 5 full slots, you get a temporary 1 slot that disappears as soon as you lose a hunter, or that hunter dies, or etc. So yeah, that was the stream for today. I'm just going to go to the first one. Are there some questions? I know a lot of people ask a lot about things that we also have answered in the past, like reconnect button and stuff like that. I will try to keep our questions focused on the test server or update 1.3. Let's just stay with this nice picture of, the new time of day while we answer some questions. Does it matter for XP if you shoot the monster down or if you melee with your weapon? No.
It does not matter.
No,
It
exactly.
both produces the same as result for your XP count.
Yeah. We cannot share anything yet about the new map and stuff or anything of the PvE mode because that will be for another stream. So like we do the dev streams, how's it called? We do the dev streams with the, obvious like per updates as we've always done. So like there will be a dev stream when we do PvE mode or etc. So unfortunately we cannot share anything else yet. When will update 1.3 go on the live server? So obviously we're testing right now. I mean, usually it's about a week.
Depends on you.
Exactly. So like obviously this has a lot of things that we still want to figure out, and like obviously there might still be changes. So it really depends like how many tests we have, what comes out of that, and then we can work on something. And potentially that that's why I still like check out the new weapons, check out the weapon changes especially. Check out the ringing sound. We would definitely want to have feedback on that. And yeah, just try it out, and then we can work on it. A reset of leader. Yeah, that's actually what I saw brought up a few times. Like, is that something that we want to do in the future or no? Like a reset of the leaderboards.
Well, the leaderboards are not resetting, but I think they expire. So if people are not playing for some time, they eventually not be listed on the leaderboard anymore. So the leaderboard should always reflect kind of like the active community and the people on that.
Yeah. Can you stay anonymous with the feature, the kill view?
You will, to a certain extent, be able to obfuscate these stats, but not in 1.3. This will be for a future update, where we want to give you the chance to opt out for specific stats you don't want to share. Like at the moment, there is not chance to be anonymous because obviously also you still have your name and everything, and you would not be able to hide those.
Yeah.
Which is also healthy because obviously we have a reporting feature. So if people troll around and then just set everything to anonymous, well, how do you find out who it was?
Yeah. Is the firing range no longer in the works because of the training mode? Yes. Right? I mean, that's mainly why we decided to go with the training mode, and that's something that we just,
Yeah. I mean, it's basically two. Yeah, it's two things. It's this for sure. I mean, because you can basically just go in with your own hunter, right? So it technically doubles as a training environment. You can always replay the training from your main menu with any of the hunters you have. So if you want to try out, let's say aftermaths, etc. on live, you can just equip one, go to the training, and then just shoot at stuff there. So it technically doubles, but also the other ones, obviously, we will also want to provide the PvE mode, and we think that is more important and also just gives the better result overall for people, like the better experience.
Hmm. Let me see. How many people are in the map with hunting mode? You 12? I mean,
12 is the
yeah,
maximum.
like
Yeah, I
12
mean,
maximum. It could be a little bit less depending on what, but most of the time.
yeah, and depending on the tick boxes you click there in the lobby, it can either be a mix of trios, duos, or solos, or it can be just duos on solos. You never know.
Someone asked, is a nitro effective range now 250 meters?
The effective range, yes, because it has a headshot range of 250 meters now, which is the same as the long bullets, though, right? So if you manage to hit someone in the face at that distance using the peephole sight, well, be my guest. I think it feels consistent. However, the actual one-hit kill to the chest, that's different from this. That still is around the 40 something meters and actually dropped by 5 meters systemically as we adjusted the drop-off curves. So while the nitro has 5 meters less of insta killing you to the chest, the upper torso that is, it also has like a bigger chance of actually being like effective at longer distances now.
Yeah.
If you manage to hit the headshot, I mean, this is an elephant hunting rifle, right? This is the type of gun, not that the bounty hunter or like the wild hunter would be carrying. That he probably had like a small caliber rifle to not damage the game. That would be the guy for security carrying next to him. So if that elephant would be stampeding right through, that would be the stopping power he could bring. That works really up close and is not an effective sniper weapon at all. This is not a caliber 50 round in modern times. I get the notion. I've been talking too much. Thank you, Kat. Thank you for reminding me.
No, Cat. I think Cat has a hairball or like tries to get out a hairball. No, that's why I muted it. I was like, I'm just not gonna have you guys enjoy that. Is the redneck barefoot? I think he is. I don't.
No, no, I
No,
think he's wearing
he's.
he's wearing some
See,
shoes.
I knew I should have had the full image in there. I can show it, but yeah. No, it's not barefoot. I think. Let me just.
To be 100% sure, you should head to the test server right away and try it for yourself.
Exactly. No, he has shoes. Shoes. But yeah. Okay, we'll do like three more questions.
What do you mean put Dennis' face on the redneck? I already have my face on the redneck. That's me.
Shoes. Oh my god. We're
That's
not
what
gonna
home
go
office is
over
doing.
every item because this was already we already did a recap of the stream, so that is something that comes. Yeah, can we give an update when the crossplay will come for like Xbox and PlayStation?
I can't really say when exactly, but it's being worked on right now very actively. So hopefully we have an update very soon about this.
Yes. Okay. Let
Next,
me
I
see.
mean, the biggest important thing was to roll out some of the crash fixes and the input lag stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why we already released the hotfix. Obviously, there's going to be still more crashes we want to fix, and then we also have as a next big thing, and hopefully that happens before 1.3 comes to console. We have an update for the crossplay.
Yeah.
When exactly? A few days, a few weeks? I honestly don't know. It comes down to when we can finish this whole thing and test it.
Exactly. So that's why, in general, we also, I mean, obviously, most of the streams are 1.3 focused, but just to give an update for, like, obviously the PlayStation and Xbox players, we are aware that there are some crashes happening. That's also something that we definitely have as, like, one of our high priorities for fixing. So that is something that we're also onto. Like, I know we don't always share too much about PlayStation, or, well, I mean, we haven't had a dev stream since PlayStation, so have we? Yeah, we have. I'm not sure anymore. Time is like weird now. Um, but yeah, so that is something that we are focusing really hard on, and yeah, that is something that will come. Okay, we'll do one more question for the update. I know a lot of you are talking about reconnect, and we have already explained many things that why we're not doing a reconnect at the moment. Yes, so like the console will also receive sound cue. Can we say that that's coming with this update for like when this goes on test, on live for the console? I know that's a stupid question because I kind of can set it, but like the sound cue and stuff, the one that we already had on PC should be up to par very soon as well. So probably,
Yeah, I think so. Once we have 1.3
yeah,
on consoles, then it could be with a bit of a delay. I mean, sometimes we take a bit of a delay with DLC content, as you know. So it might not be directly when 1.3 hits, but with
the
1.3,
yeah,
that
exactly.
content will be delivered, and then from that point on, maybe a few weeks after, we will see the DLCs step by step come in.
Yeah,
That's also in general things like, obviously we have shown a lot of legendary stuff to stream. I mean, look out for additional DLC stuff also further down the line. But let's first get this to life.
exactly. Yeah. Okay, very last question. Mm, mm, mm. Will you add the report button even after a match in the lobby? I'm not sure. Can we eventually do that?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't
Will
say
we
that.
add the report button even after a match in the lobby?
So we talked about this at the moment. We don't have that. We might do it moving forward, but right now it's limited to the in session.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, at the moment, I see a lot of people that answer. Is there meant to be a delay for the death into the window? Yes. I think you mean that you still see the hunter fall, right? Because originally, when we had it on test earlier, it was very abrupt, and it just feels too abrupt. I think, and I felt that was also feedback that we got from the people that played, that it was very fast. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's
So
still
the
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 falling.
timing the timing of when it actually appears, etc., is still being worked on. I mean, it's
Yeah.
also have some flickering issues, etc. We still have some couple edge case bugs. So the dev screen is still, I would say, the thing that is work in progress the most as you go and test server and try it out. So there will be seeing some additional improvements here and there. The other features is more about balancing and tuning and seeing the feedback from that. Like for example, the ear ringing audio, like how frequent it is, how annoying it could be, or maybe not, and what we want to do about it, or if people actually are liking it after they've played for us for some time and they grew on them. Again, ideally don't run to the forums instantly after you play the first round and die to an aftermath or a Winnie fanning or whatever. Maybe just play a couple of rounds, get a feeling for it. I mean, you guys know the game. You should be able to understand these changes after a few rounds rather easily, and then take that feedback on the forums there with like some proper constructive feedback so that we can actually take something from this and balance the game accordingly.
Yes, exactly. Okay, that was it then for today's stream. If you've missed anything, please rewatch it because we have answered and shown a lot of things. So we hope to see you guys in the test server that is live right now. And if you're a console, you have to wait unfortunately a bit longer until you can play on live, but it will come. And yeah, we hope that you guys can give us some feedback. It would be very helpful. And we'll see you guys next time. Hopefully,
Bye
maybe from
bye.
the office again, but I don't know.
Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
weird situation, but we're doing our best. Luckily, everything went fine so far. No audio issues. That was nice.
Yeah,
So,
and we have test server to kind of like do something during the time, right? So whoever
exactly.
stuck at home, maybe that's an option for you at least then.
Yes.
Enjoy the test
Okay.
server, guys. Been a pleasure as always. Bye bye.
Bye.